Okay, so this is Lumix. Panasonic made these Lumix GM1 and GM5s back in the 2013-2014 time, and they're very popular. This is arguably, according to DP Review and Micro Four Thirds Nerds, the smallest interchangeable lens camera that has ever been made. One of the questions out there right now has to do with the battery, the actual board-mounted battery that's in these. And what's going on with that particular battery is it's aging. Now, a symptom of that, I think, with this particular camera is that there are settings that you can put in these cameras, and you just saw a notification about a travel date. I just got back from Australia, and so it says the travel date was canceled. I'm going to turn it back off and on. And yes, by the way, this is what we used to call a gray market camera. This was for the Japanese market, and it is in I guess it's a developer mode so that I can use it with English. So it says it's let's take a look at the date real quick. And if we look at the current clock setting, it says it's 1:46 on March 16th, 2025. Now, if I go ahead and shut this off, take the battery out, put the battery back in, turn it on, okay, it's fine. It retained the time. However, if I shut this off, take the battery out, even long enough just to swap it with a new battery, that's long enough for this to happen. Please set clock. Now the setting is complete, but if you'll also notice, let's get into the menu. The original destination for my vacation into Australia, that's still set. So the real question today that we're going to determine is the battery that's on the board in here, replacing that, is that going to allow this to retain the actual time while I take the battery out? Or is that battery, still sufficient because it's saving things like the world time and the destination? I just don't know. But you're going to watch a little bit of a video where I'm taking this apart and replacing that battery. And I'm going to replace it with a battery I'll show you in a minute. We'll start dismantling by first taking the lens off and just putting a body cap on. That way I can work with the lens as is. And then what we'll do is, this is documented in the service manual, which is available. And we'll just go ahead and start taking the unit apart, just to be very careful with how everything is assembled here. I will work on it piece by piece, and then we'll put it back together. The battery, I believe, is somewhere over on this side, so I'll go ahead and start removing the screws, the top plate should come off fairly easily. Then the bottom should come off fairly, or the back should come off fairly easily. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that process right now. Yes, actually there are three kinds of screws. The guide tells you, the maintenance manual tells you A, B, and C. These are three different size screws in terms of length. Now the good news here, notice that's a lot longer than the others. Notice there's some color coding here as well. So when you look at the screws that I've got there, you'll notice that there is I've got a long black one that's going to go back here. These small stubby ones go here, and then these, which are a bit longer. And by the way, the lengths are noted in the repair manual or the service manual, but I'm just telling you for visual purposes. And then at this point, this really should very carefully come off. So I'm going to do that. And by the way, you don't want to be using, a screwdriver on this to try to force it. See the back is, and I'm just using my fingernails just to get under it a little bit so that I can take it apart really carefully. These are precision products. They were built to be serviced, for sure, but serviced by people other than the layperson who knows, people who know what they are doing. Most of us guys, folks out there, guys and gals, this is not something we're used to doing. Now I'm going to set this here for just a second because I want to pay attention to a few things. Got these ribbon cables. Now ribbon cables can be fussy. You can also ruin them very quickly. So I needed to do this under a magnifying glass. Notice that is moving because what I've done is I've been able to rocker both of those up, and very carefully that pulls out. Okay. To take the the top PCB, the parts component board off is actually under this side. And the first thing that you have to do is you have to remove this screw. Notice it's yet a different kind of screw. It tells you what kind it is, but that's way down here. And you remove that, that's going to allow the top cover to pop off. Now, one of the things that they do describe is actually discharging and unsoldering the flash unit. But that's if you're going to take the main PCB off, which I don't need to do for this. So what I think is, because this has clips, I think I'm going to be able to just pop that up. And according to the manual, it looks like this will just kind of pop up and rotate. I will be able to pop it up and rotate it. So I'm looking at that right now, just to make sure I understand what needs to be done before I do anything that could break it. I did check the manual, and it looks as if they did take the mount ring off, so I'm going ahead and doing that again. Pay attention to the kind of screw you have. These are longer screws. Again, the manual tells you what the kind of screw is and its length. Be aware that you could be getting dirt onto the sensor. So I'm being really careful with how I'm disassembling this. And I'm going to take this to the next level. You got to be careful of stuff like that. We don't want to mess with any of that. And it may be, yeah, because there's another screw back there. Let me double check the manual and see what it says about that screw, because I didn't see that in the manual. Yeah, there's a screw right there that is going through that top plate. Now that just needs to come out. Again, make sure you've got precision tools for this. And I can see that I'm getting dirt on the sensor. So, you know, we want to be careful when we are done with this. This needs to be blown out with a brush very carefully, because this thing, the sensor, of course, is one of the most important pieces. And yeah, you can see that there's dirt on it. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this up, see if I can, anywhere it's giving you any resistance, need to pay attention to why there's resistance there. So let me take a look at the repair manual and make sure that there's nothing else that that I'm doing or should be doing to remove this. I'm hoping I don't have to take that back PC board out. So notice this right here. This is was mounted with a screw, yet another screw, different kind of screw that went on here. That, and it's only one of a kind. I'll have to sort that out when I'm putting it back. It's silver. Allows this whole piece to come off. Okay, so you see that this has come up and off, right? So just remember, this is how it'll go back on. But it goes up and over and off. Now, I'm going to set this aside. And we're going to pay attention to this part. This is where the battery is supposed to be hidden. And I can't quite tell where, but in order to get to it, you have to remove 3 screws. So here's a screw, and there's a screw. Now, understanding that as I'm doing this work, there are pieces that could come off, could even get lost, like there could be a spring. So I'm going to do this really, really carefully. See how much more detail I can give you. Now that I've taken those screws out, I'm just double checking to see, you know, what else is here that I have to be concerned with. That comes off. And then, you know, what I'm concerned about is, are there other pieces that may come off that maybe are hiding a little spring behind them? So I'll take a look at that. This might be the clip anyway. And then I want to pull the board up and make sure that nothing's coming out from it. I need to be careful of this connector because I don't know what it's connected to underneath. So I'm going to take a look at that under the magnifying glass. Okay, So this is the last bit. The PCB is, lightly lifted a little bit. I have to take this off, which is FPB 8002. That I'm concerned about disconnecting it just because it's so small. So I'm going to look at doing that next. And then I'll come back on camera with the next steps. So this just friction fits into that receiver. There's no lock on there, but I just very carefully rocked it with a screwdriver so that I could pull it out. It'll go in the same way it came out. This is for the focus assist right here, and it looks like it wants to come out, so I'm going to work on carefully removing it before the rest of the PCB. The PCB should lift straight out, and I've got it sort of kind of coming out on this side, but I want it to come straight out, and it looks like this is the binding component, so I'm going to work on doing that right now. And with a smaller screwdriver, I was able to very carefully just lift that. It looks like it's just going to go right back in. Does not look like it was physically attached to anything, like I didn't break it. And now at this point, the PCB should come right up. Yeah, there we go. Now what I'm a little concerned about is what's underneath it. Okay, now, really important things to note. This cam needs to match that cam. Now, obviously, I haven't done anything. I'm not turning this. This little micro switch is going to have to fall right back where it was here because that is used for focus. So putting it back, I got to be really careful. And one other thing, this is actually one of the stereo microphones that had just kind of pulled out a little bit. So that is now. I wanted to interrupt this and pay particular attention to this diagram that shows the power dial spring and the focus dial spring. There's a spring and a click ball associated with each one of those. And there are two covers that hold those in. But if you turn this top upside down or even sideways and start to mess with the dials, what will happen is the dial will force the holder out and the spring and ball will go flying somewhere. That happened to me in my shop. The good news is I have a fairly clean shop. I was able to find those two pieces for the power button. If you're doing this anywhere you have carpet, you've got no hope of finding those items. They're so small. So the best thing to do is once you've taken the PC board out, don't mess with this top. Don't do anything. Just set it aside. Don't turn it over. You can lose parts that way too. Just set it aside. Work on the PC board, and then when you're done with the PC board, you're going to put it all back. Come back, bring it back to your work area in the same orientation it was, and then put the PC board back in. Learn from my mistake. Don't make this mistake yourself. You will never be able to find the springs, the balls, and you can't find these things online. So you would essentially render your camera useless. Pulled out. So yeah, again, I don't want to mess with this cam at all. And what I might do is, just because I could actually touch it, I think what I'm going to do is take a black pen and just put a dot on there so that I can see where it was. So now that I've done that, I also noticed there's another indicator. It's this. I don't know what state it was in. This is oh, that's power. So hopefully that's off. So you can see what has to be done to be able to get to this battery. Now, here's the important part. I don't know how well I can zoom this, but you should be able to see that battery is going to require some precision soldering. So I'm going to get set up to do that right away. But before I do that, let me make sure that from a size standpoint, we are working with the right thing. That's the correct battery size and orientation. So my next step is to go ahead and I want to test that battery just to see what kind of power it may still have. So let's see, the new is measuring about 2 volts. Well, the existing is not even 1 volt. So it's definitely not, it's not a good battery and the battery's dying or dead. All right, so now I have to set this up for the precision work of replacing that battery. And I'm not going to video that because that needs my full attention, but I'll come back after it's done. All right. I have soldered that new battery in. I'm going to test it in just a moment. Everything else on the PCB has been left alone. I did mark this to make sure that cam didn't get messed up. I have to worry about this switch. I think this is the power switch, and I have to worry about this because I think this is the focus switch. So I need to make sure that wherever that cam is for each of those, this just fits into perfectly. Because otherwise, it would not. It would break that switch off, and this switch goes this way. This looks like it's in 2 different directions, so I need to double check this. This, I noticed the cam is correct. And I want to make sure that this stays there. There we go. Okay, so let's get back to putting this thing back together. The back will go on after this goes on, and I have to remember was like that. Now, oh crap. Before I do that, it would be better to have this installed again. Go ahead and place this in. Make sure that's well snug. And then flip this over. And when you flip that over, that locks it in place. So that when, and it makes sense because the bias of it, right, then the bias of it kind of fits. And then we want, yeah, it goes in between. That's fitting better. And then this will just snap into place in a second because that's pretty close. Yep, snap. Hasn't yet, but snap. Got to put that screw in, put that in. Have to gently get this. Got to get that. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we go ahead, flip that one over. So that's done. This is done. Then I have to find that screw. That's a specific screw. And of course, this is a specific screw as well. So I'll find those and put those in. Okay, so I think I have this correct this time, because I think these go under there. So we'll try this again. Again, this is, I'm going to, yeah, that looks better. It feels better now. And it's actually going flush. And I didn't want the screws to be what pulled it flush. You know, I wanted it to, to be correct. Yeah, and look at all the dirt I'm getting in the sensor. Brilliant. Next time, you know, when you go to do this on your own, find that the setting, I don't remember what it was, but it essentially brings the manual shutter down so that, you know, you're not getting dirt all over it like I am. Well, the good news is I had planned to brush it out anyway. So let's see. Okay, that works perfectly. Okay. My poor sensor. It's so dirty. All right. Now, the next step is to go ahead and complete the work on the back. And to do that, I got an array of screws left. I've got to figure out which screw this one is. I have one screw that doesn't look like the rest, and I think that's the one, because everything else, yeah, that's it. And this was sort of a little beveled. Yeah, that was it. And that's attaching there's this little spring here. This is the I think it's like a ground for the camera. And now we can go ahead and put all of, let's see, I've got 6 screws, and then I've got the one for the back, the black one. So I think we're ready to go ahead and put the back on. And to put the back on is no small feat, because you have to mess around with sort of getting this set at the right angle. So I'm going to do that off camera. And what I'll be doing is I'll be sneaking this in here, and then I'm going to have to pull it up. You're not going to be able to see what I'm doing, likely. But I'll go ahead and record that in a separate segment just in case. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is put the back on while you're watching. And the idea is I've got to get this ribbon cable in there and snapped. And then this one I'll put in here and snap. I think this one might be the harder one to do. And I'm not sure the best angle to do it. And you got to be careful with these, because these can they can just snap. So what I want to do is make sure that I am as gingerly as I can going to get this. And see, this is what I mean. I said earlier it was going to be hard to view. It's hard for me to even see what I'm doing. So okay, so that one, that's in, and then you just, so can you see it? Ooh, I don't know if you can. Now you can. And then see this little flipper? You just flip that over. I don't like that though. It doesn't look like it's crooked. Maybe it wasn't. Okay. Now that's in. Now we're going to do this one and see how unwieldy it is. At least they're serviceable. I mean, imagine imagine if it wasn't. Now, of course, it's proof's in the pudding. When I turn this thing on, which I will not do on camera until I've actually done it myself and made sure the thing works. But that now should be all together. Okay, so next step, put the battery in, see what happens. And then I'll put the rest of the screws in. Okay, I don't have all the rest of the screws in because, you always have to take something apart 5 times to get it right. But I'm going to turn it on. Set clock. That's good news. So I'm going to set the clock 16th, and it's 25. Oops. All right, so that's set. And now what we want to do is go ahead and see if it will work. Okay, yeah, set, no memory card. Okay, yeah, I don't have a memory card, that's fine. I'll go ahead and open it up and put a memory card in, but let's see. I have AFS, how do I know? Yeah, it says AFS right here. So I know that this says AFC, so I know the switch is correct. Remember, I had to kind of toggle this when I was putting the top board in to make sure it was working. This says Intelligent Auto, now it says Program. So this is working correctly, that's good. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the screws in, put the memory card in, and see how it does. And in this time, while this is, you know, being put back together and has a battery in it, it should be charging that little lithium battery. And so we'll see whether this helps the clock or not. So I'm going to go ahead and put the screws back in. You don't need to see me doing that. I'll be back. Okay, so we're back the next morning. We're trying to solve with the Panasonic Lumix GM1 is the problem where whenever you would take the battery out, you would have to reset the clock. And what that indicated was there was a problem, or the internal battery that retained settings was either dead, dying, or just wouldn't take a charge any longer. Now, that battery resides up here in a PC board, so we had to take it all apart. We had to take the PC board out. I had to desolder the old battery and solder a new battery on that I'd purchased. And in the process of doing that, I tested the old battery. The old battery had less than a volt. It was about 0.8 volt. The new battery has around 2.2 volts, and it should charge to around 3 volts normally in the camera when a battery is inserted. So what would happen is you'd turn the camera on, you'd have to set the clock, you'd set the clock, and then if you took the battery out like this and left the battery out for any period of time, for me in the demonstration at the beginning, I think it was, I took it out, put it back in, and I had to set the clock. Now, as you can see, I've had the battery out during this discussion, certainly longer than I did in the beginning of the video. I'm going to put the battery back in, and I am going to then just power it up and see what it does. So here's the pudding, the proof in the pudding. No set clock. So it's not asking me to set the clock. It is, in fact, if I check the clock, it says it's 6:33 the day after I started the work. So you can see it's working, works like a champ. And what I'm happy about is that let me take the lens cap off so you can see that it's actually working. Everything works. The touchscreen works without any issues, so I know I put everything back in correctly. See where it says AFC? This is set to AFC, AFS, sets to AFS, and manual is on manual focus. And as if you remember when I was putting the PC board back in here, I just kind of rockered it for a second. I could tell that it wasn't popping in place, and then I just rotated this to get in line with the switch, because remember I showed you that switch that if you weren't careful you could break it, and and then the PC board snapped in place. So everything works as I said, and I'll just take a quick picture just to show you that yes, in fact, it works. So, this has been a video to show you how to replace the internal lithium-ion rechargeable battery. And I have these for sale on eBay. I bought a lot of them, an LOT of them. They are Panasonic batteries. Don't buy a cheap battery, because all of the work that you're going to have to do here, you don't want to have to do again. So definitely buy a branded battery from Panasonic. I'll leave the battery description so that you know what the model is if you're trying to find it, again, in the description below. Thanks for taking a lot of time to watch this. I know this was tedious because I really took you through a lot of steps. You actually saw a lot of what I did. But I wanted to make sure that you saw the entire process. Yeah, the part I didn't show was where I actually soldered the new battery to the board, and the reason is it's precision work. I didn't want to be messing with a camera while I was making sure that I didn't mess up anything on the board. But then I did show you the result of that. Looks the same as the other. The thing that you do need to be aware of if you're doing this on your own is, and this is very important, polarity. Now, the way that battery is designed is it's designed to sit a certain way, and it sits perfectly on the board with the correct polarity. But the last thing you want to do is have that turned around. It could damage the circuit. So again, thanks for taking a lot of time to watch this. Hope this helps for everybody in the Micro Four Thirds market who has seen and coveted one of these small cameras. I will tell you, I've taken it on an extended vacation in Australia and did a lot of street photography for it. This and its newer brother or sister camera, which is the GM5. If you have one of each, that's all you need. Thanks again.